I think that for the most part, they gave me all the tools and all the support I needed, and I couldn't have asked for more. But I think that as you get older, their caution can sometimes be limited.
Wow, guys, can you believe it? We're already over 20 episodes into Nick Speaks, but here's the truth. I couldn't have done it alone. The amazing team at Goodnight Podcasting Solutions has been with me every step of the way, from those early strategy sessions all the way to editing, promotion, and even helping me land guests. They've made it so all I have to do is show up, record, and focus on delivering the message. Kyle at Goodnight Podcasting Solutions tailors everything to your unique needs and is so creative to give you what you're looking for. But one thing's for sure, he gives 110% to help you create an incredible podcast. So if you've ever thought about starting your own podcast, now's the time. Hit the link in the show notes, set up a strategy session with Kyle, and get ready to take your podcast to the next level. Trust me, you won't regret it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new installment of the Nick Speaks podcast, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. I am your host, Nicholas Comstock. You guys, I have been doing podcasting since August, and one of the things that I love about podcasting is the incredible people that I get to meet. And networking is how I have found a lot of my guests. And today is the same with my guest. She works for a nonprofit. She is a published author of over 20 books. And I am so grateful to have her on my podcast. Please help me welcome Tracee Garner to Nick Speaks. Tracee, thank you so much for being on Nick Speaks.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate the opportunity to share. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, why don't you start off the episode, if you're comfortable with, of course, telling people what your diagnosis is and just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, great. Thank you again. My name's Tracee Lydia Garner. Like you said, I've written 21 books so far. I have my 21st book coming out in the spring of this year. And I'm so excited. I write romantic fiction, but I've also written some self-help. And I wrote my first book on disability a couple of years ago. I live in Northern Virginia area, just outside of DC. And I was diagnosed at 2 years old with muscular dystrophy, specifically spinal muscular atrophy. And I got my first wheelchair when I was in elementary school. And I didn't get my first power chair until I was in sixth grade. And it was a liberating experience after my dad made me push myself in my manual chair for like what seemed like forever. And then I hired people to push me with candy and M&Ms and bribe them. So I was liberated in sixth grade, getting my power chair, and haven't looked back ever since. Just continue to strive and do what I can and share about, what capabilities people with disabilities have to contribute to this often inaccessible society we live in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I remember too, Tracee, because that's funny that you say that. You got your first power chair in sixth grade. I believe that's when most people who are in wheelchairs all their lives, they end up getting their first power chair. And just like you said, I remember how liberating it was. Now, of course, my parents could never have nice walls again or doors, but it was liberating for me because I didn't have to have somebody push me. It was my first big freedom of independence. And I've had trouble with my hands. So they did everything in their power to try to make it so that I could push my wheelchair, but it just wasn't feasible. So not to have somebody wait on me in the aspect of, hey, where's Nick? Oh, wait, we have to go push his chair. Uh, was so liberating. So yeah,
Right. And I could push my chair too as best as to my ability, but the problem was I didn't want to. Like I did not feel like it. I was already like, this is for the birds. So, you have anything electric back there? And, for the longest time they did. Even my first wheelchair I can remember was these little wheels, you know, lowered down on top of the big wheels and kind of made it spin. It was actually, even back then it was kind of antique, but for someone who never had a car chair, it was like you said, it was liberating. It was a piece of assistive technology that that helps us like everything that we have, that ramps and automatic doors and everything that everybody else uses, but sometimes doesn't want to admit to.
Yeah. So actually, to talk a little bit about the history of power chairs real quick. So my first introduction of power chair was, and I don't know if this is similar to what you're talking about, but mine was actually a battery pack, and you took the tires off, and then you set up the chair on the battery pack, and then it turned into a power chair. And is that something similar to?
Yeah, that sounds very familiar. But the tires didn't, they just kind of lowered onto the wheels, the big wheels, the little wheels lowered onto the big wheels. And that's what made it kind of go forward. But like I said, I did not care. It could have been two little, squirrels in the wheel, pushing for me. I would have given those squirrels all the cheese they could eat, as long as they, work somehow for me to, like you said, get around and have freedom and be able to be somewhere while your mom, looks through the clothes and you're just sitting, looking staring into space, but they kind of move around and have freedom. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really great. And power chair chargers have come a long way, because it used to take a complete 10 hours for a power chair to charge. And so now it takes maybe less than an hour, at least for mine. I don't know.
So it's really, really fast. And chairs last now for 3 days on one charge. At least, when you first get your batteries, they can last a really long time.
Yeah, yeah. So it's been really great. Well, so you said your 21st book is coming out in the spring, which I people have told me for years, Nick, write a book, write a book, write a book. And I'm working on a project right now that is somewhat similar to that. I don't know how much I can say, but the fact that you have written 21, what inspired you to start writing?
Really, writing just came from a need to escape, the limitations of, am I ever going to get out of college? Am I ever going to graduate? I was failing in my academics. I'd been rejected, in kind of the love interest type of thing, which was one sided. I was the only one who had the interest, but just the hurt and the pain of getting older. In K through 12, I was telling another host of another podcast, I was so happy go lucky and just so optimistic about everything until I got to college, where I know things probably changed for a lot of people, but it was especially difficult kind of being, kind of, I wouldn't say, really, really popular, but just being kind of in the know and to go to, almost obscurity in such a big school, so many people, I mean, thousands of people, and kind of just not having the same support system. So my way of coping with that was first when I started writing poetry in college. I wrote poems and it was about leaving my wheelchair behind, and it won like mentions and got put into our campus literary magazine for that poem, and that gave me a little bit of validation. And then I saw a writing contest online, and I said, "Oh my god, I think this contest is for me. Let me try to enter it." And I had been crying and really depressed at the time when I saw it online, and then all of a sudden, I just remember my tears kind of drying up and saying, "I'm going to enter this." So to make a long story short, I entered it. I won a monetary advance. I won a trip to New York with me and my parents to accept an award, first time authors award, and a luncheon. And it just changed my life. I mean, I found something that I was good at. All of a sudden, people were more interested in talking to an author than they were just, your regular person with a disability. But people kind of looked up and saw like, wow, that's a real talent, that's a real skill, and they admired that, and that also helped me find my voice to do my advocacy, to champion, things and people with disabilities. I needed to have writing skills too. So when I'm writing stories and doing public testimony, it really helps me in that too.
So you mentioned your parents a little while back there within that with what you were telling me. How was your support system growing up? Did your parents because I know I've talked about a lot on here through my monologues that I really didn't have the support system that I felt that I needed to succeed. I really felt that I was on my own in a lot of cases. So
Mhm.
how was your support system? Did your parents look
Yeah.
muscular dystrophy and be like, you're never going to be able to move out, you're never going to be able to do thus and so?
hmm Say that I didn't really think about it too much. I would say that early on, they were like, everything is available to you. You can do everything. But I think that, parents can caution you when it comes to like dating and relationships. And sometimes they have their own limiting beliefs that can kind of hinder
Right.
you. So I would say early on, no, they told me I could do anything. And they still kind of tell me my mom is the only living right now, but they still believe in you. But I know there's always a little bit of caution that they have. And I don't think it's because they don't feel you can do something. What I think is they're trying to save you from added hurt or disappointment. And that can sometimes, guide their parenting skills. I mean, now I'm almost, 50, but, back then I didn't feel any real limitations. I felt so supported. I think my parents, treated me as if I didn't have a disability sometimes. Like, even today, when I'm having a little pity party, they'll be like, Mom, I really am disabled. I really do have challenges. And she's like, You do? Where? I don't see it. And I'm just like, that both helps and hinders because it's not recognizing the parts of you. But I totally get it. People don't want you to have a pity party. They don't want you to get, sucked down into depression, which I do have some diagnosed depression a little bit, a mild case. And do get down, especially during the winter months when it's cold and it's so hard going here. So I think that for the most part, they gave me all the tools and all the support I needed, and I couldn't have asked for more. But I think that as you get older, their caution can sometimes be limiting. Because I do remember, battling with my mother, especially like using the metro, other things that other kids with disabilities were doing at, 15, 16. I could really go to battle to say that I could use it by myself. I know where I'm going. I know how to navigate. But there are healthy concerns about what if your chair breaks down, as soon as you get on the train? How are you going to get off? Who are you going to call? But I have no qualms, asking strangers, hey, can you give me a push? All of them, there's always a little bump on the metro. I don't know if you experienced that, where you get stuck and your wheels could get stuck. Like the first time that happens, it is a bit panic inducing, and you're kind of like, Mama, your mom's not there. You have to learn, though, to navigate that. And some dude always comes over and it's like, you need a lift? And he like pulls my chair back and I get up and he goes go see, and I'm on the train. So I think that it's important parents, tell, show their child how to problem solve and how to, do things. Even I would say even some parents that may seem hesitant about their child trying new things or going to the store on their own, follow them. Like for the first few times, have to build up the confidence and know that you're there. And that's what a cell phone is for. And other things that we put in the safety rails and the safeguards to help them, but don't let it rule you. Do not let it keep your child from experiencing, whatever the world has to offer, both good and bad.
Right. Right. So, the way I actually found you is listening to you on another podcast. And one of the reasons that I wanted to reach out to you uh, was because you said something to me that literally hit home as an advocate for the disabled is that advocacy can be exhausting.
Mhm.
And can you talk about some of the things that you had to fight for, and you just look at it and go, this should have already been dealt with. I shouldn't have to fight for something so simple.
It should be done already. And, I think people underestimate how many years, we've been fighting for some of the same things over and over again. But I would say the top three things, are just unemployment, employment only for myself. The unemployment rate is very high among people with disabilities as compared
Yes.
to, our non-disabled peers. Transportation. I live in a county that didn't used to have transportation until and they still don't. They did it for a while where they were going till 10 p.m. and then they stopped that. And so now they actually stop picking up people at 7 p.m. And so it's just ridiculous when one county over, you can use Metro access and Metro Rail until 12 midnight. So some of the things is like people still think people with disabilities don't have, um, you know, live lives and don't go out after dark. One of the really things that has set me really recently in my advocacy is I purchased a wheelchair that costs upward of $34,000. Now I am in a battle with the company for them to take the wheelchair back because nobody told me the wheelchair was not crash tested. I'm actually in my old wheelchair currently. So that tells me that you don't think people with disabilities drive. I need a wheelchair that's crash tested because the people who are modifying my vehicle right now, I'm going for my first fitting in another 30 days. I'm going for my first fitting and I have to take my old wheelchair that is on its last leg because the new wheelchair was in crash tested, which means to me, you don't think people with disabilities are going to drive, right? We haven't crash tested. I can't get the appropriate bracket put on that chair because they will not certify it. They will not let me use it. They will not let me modify it because it hasn't been fully tested. So now I'm stuck with a 30 plus $1,000, piece of crap really, that I can't use. I won't be able to drive my van in it. So my old chair has it, but then my old chair is at risk of not passing because it's old. It's going to be more than, 8 years old. And we, as you know, are committed through insurance to get a wheelchair every 5 years. So to
Yeah.
get a wheelchair in 2023, I have not been in for more than a few hours while they work on my old wheelchair. And I'm putting several $1,000s into my old wheelchair because they, basically sold me something and didn't had no consideration. I assumed wheelchairs were crash tested until I got one that wasn't.
And you,
Hopefully they have been.
yeah, because now I'm not able to drive a vehicle because of my vision, so I'm blind. But so does your wheelchair, do people who drive, um, do they have to have their wheelchairs crash tested before they can drive it in a van?
Yes, because I'm driving from my wheelchair. So my wheelchair has a bracket on it underneath it, and there's something on the floor of my van that I drive up into. And the thing that's hanging down from my chair locks into the system that's on the floor. So this new wheelchair can have that bracket put onto it. And that bracket cost me $1,500 just to put on. So now I have a wheelchair I can't use. I can't get another one for another 5 years, and I actually contacted the owner of the company on LinkedIn, and they're going to eat the cost of that chair. But like every time I talk to them, I just go and like have a cry. I can't do anything for the rest of the day. Like I'm just so upset that it's taken over a year, and it was really a oopsie. The guy that came to service my old wheelchair told me he was going to try to fix my new wheelchair to say, well, what's wrong with it? What's wrong? He basically just, dropped the bombshell that, oh, that chair we found out was not crash tested because we worked with somebody else who didn't want to buy the chair because it's crash tested. And I was like, what? What did you tell me? I didn't even know he was telling me some big giant secret. But a memo should have went out to every owner that owns a chair saying, we're sorry, people who bought these shares can't get them crash tested and they will not be able to drive from them, and actually put my driving evaluation on hold for almost a year because I was waiting for the chair. And now the chair doesn't even work for me. So I wasted time. The other thing that people don't understand is that I'm wasting, I have a muscular, neuromuscular disease. So the
Right.
longer I'm not doing something, repetitive every day, I could be losing muscle. So then I could be declared by a doctor or their therapist, well, over a year, you haven't been driving, you haven't doing any rigorous activity. Now you're too weak. I mean, it's just the mental, issue that comes with thinking about all these dominoes are just it's so messed up.
It's a
And immediately told me
yeah.
it's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
In the dark. I mean, it's just ridiculous that people don't inform you. They don't think about your life and your livelihood. I haven't been able to drive for a year because my van died in 2023. So then I had to start the process with vocational rehabilitation to get the process. The process went really smooth this time, by the way. The last time that I went through with vocational rehab, I got denied 7 times. And I finally got a new counselor. Yes, for the van funding to pay for the modifications. I still have to pay for the van, but they will pay some of them and most of the modifications. So I got denied 7 times. I finally didn't give up and I asked for a new counselor. But sometimes you're just not even aware of your rights to get a new counselor, to get someone, to help you. I appealed and appealed and appealed, and the same old dude kept saying no. And finally, as soon as I got a new counselor, you know what else happened as a result of my advocacy efforts? They invited me down to the state capitol and gave me a tenacity award. I mean, it's ridiculous. They gave
Oh,
me rewards for challenging them. It's like, imagine how many people left after the first no and didn't realize their dreams.
right.
It burns you up. People say, you say no to someone and they don't have the wherewithal, the support, or the confidence to reject the no. And that makes me the most sad of everything.
Right. Well, because, you and I are both disabled, and sometimes you get told no so many times. It's just like, I'm done. I'm done. Because then, and wouldn't you say this is true? Then when you advocate and go to the top, you get blacklisted. That's a difficult case.
That's right.
To do is have access and have as a normal life as possible.
Yes. And you're just fighting for the things. The thing that burned me up and what motivated me mostly was when my white friend drove by in his van with he was testing out the van and he was getting fitted for hand controls. That motivated me. I think if it hadn't been for him, he was really showing off to me because we're actually not really close friends anymore. But he drove by my house. It was like, hey, come up here. He called me on the cell phone. And I was actually just at graduate from high school, I think. And so he came out, and his counselor, or I guess the PT that had the big end and was, training him on using the hand controls, drove by. And I just remember looking at him drive away like, me, so I was thinking like, like we have similar disabilities. We both have muscular dystrophy. And he's pulling up to my house and then he's like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Like I had never seen, back then. This was 19 years ago. My first van lasted for 19 years. I took care of it. It was a Dodge Chrysler. And I want them to sponsor me.
Chrysler, by the way.
Me too. So they should like maybe to lift them up. But anyway, my point is that I took care of that man and it lasted me for 19 years. And I cried, when it showed away. Because it was devastating because I will not be driving anything else. I can't hop in anybody's car and go where I please. I can't have anybody pick me up in their regular vehicle and go where I want. So I need to drive for myself and I will. But the things that we have to go through, one therapist told me that he actually left my state and is moving, I believe, I want to say to Philadelphia, because people who apply are guaranteed to get their vehicle patients. He's like, I hate what they put you guys through. I'm leaving this. I'm just filling in for a friend. He happened to be filling in And I remember I did my driving evaluation on Father's Day last year. And he was like, well, I'm going to be leaving the state soon. I'm going to another voc rehabilitation place in another state. And so he was saying that the state makes it so much easier. And he hates seeing people who he knows are probably not going to get approved. So he left this state to go to another state that approves people with disabilities and sometimes give them two vehicles in their lifetime. I remember both rehab saying to me that, well, we only like to give you one van and one lifetime. You can't really come back and ask again. And I was like, I'm just going to take a chance. It's got to be, I thought it would be way worse this time, considering the first time I had 7 denials. But, it turned out to be us. I attribute that to prayer and faith in God. But my point is that it doesn't have to be so difficult. People they wield their power and they make your life difficult and they don't have to.
Right. Right. And it shouldn't take you 7 times to get approved for something so simple. And
You shouldn't.
it baffles me that they gave you that award. I mean, it's nice that they did it, I guess, but it's kind of like, thanks for standing up and being a bully to us,
Exactly. And not even a bully, but just standing up and really seeking what you want out of this life.
Right, absolutely. And so, that's why, I say this all the time. Our government has people in positions that are running these programs that have no idea what it's like to have somebody with a disability.
They don't.
Or have no idea what it's like to try to get them out of bed every morning and to try to deal with all the red tape and the insurance. And if you do have someone in the system that has someone with a disability, well, they have all the resources because they know all the red tape and how to get around. So either we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. And so it's just kind of like, what is that? I guess that's where advocacy gets exhausting.
It's exhausting telling you that story.
Yes, I'm sure.
My pain, my trauma. Yes.
Yeah.
People need to know what we go through. And the other thing people act like is that we somehow invited disability into our own lives. This is a circumstance that we have been given. We are going to handle it. Obviously, they thought we were the strong ones. We're going to handle it. It's not going to be easy, and it hasn't been easy, but for people to further stand in their way unnecessarily is ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's just so, and for the things, like my chair is over $30,000, and my friend will laugh at me. $30,000, what do you get for that? You don't even have a cup holder on your chair.
Exactly. Yes.
No, that's $30,000 for what? Like, can you watch TV on it or something?
The cushion alone, I had to replace my cushion is $400 just for a J cushion. I mean, and even people don't even realize when you get a chair, they don't pay for repairs. They just give you the chair. It's going to break down, and there's no help or support or funding for repairs. And they're so costly.
Unless you're on Medicaid or something like that, and then it's like pulling tooth and nail to get them to pay for it.
Right. I don't even think they pay for repairs though.
Well, I know my Medicaid here in Ohio does, and if they don't, if Medicaid for some reason won't pay for it, my waiver program will step in and pay for it. Luckily, I haven't had that problem, but it is so mind-boggling to me. And then people act as if we are entitled just because we want to live normal everyday life. And it's not that we're entitled. It's not that we're saying, give me this because I deserve it because I'm disabled. Give me this because
I want every opportunity everyone else has.
Yeah, it's because I'm a human being and you're doing the same thing I want to do, and there's no reason why I should be able to do it. you know,
Mhm.
oh, wait, the reason is there's red tape and they don't really want to, you know,
So paperwork. Oh, God forbid. You have to do extra paperwork and file something and send an email. It's just ridiculous. And the money is not coming out of their pocket. I think that's another thing that they feel is, they're going to approve certain people because it's not a big deal. And other people, they're going to stand in the way and create roadblocks because it's somehow, their money. That is state money. It's taxpayer dollars. I'm a taxpayer. People in my family are taxpayers. There is funding available, but people act like it's their own money and they have to guard it somehow.
yeah,
When, being able to drive helps me go to work and earn an honest living. So I'm putting back into the system, the things that I got. But back to your point about just being exhausting, I just feel like people sometimes don't know what you've confronted already, with a caregiver, with a service, before you can even get going, before even lunchtime. And so sometimes you do have to choose your battles and you don't advocate for everything you absolutely need to because you're just tired for that day and you don't have the bandwidth.
no, and the line that drives me nuts from case managers and doctors is, you're not the only one.
Right.
Well, duh. So why isn't it getting fixed? If you know that I'm not the only one, why isn't somebody getting in a boardroom somewhere or writing a governor or doing something? All we get are these cookie cutter letters. Thank you for your concern. We'll look into this. Okay. That's it.
No.
It really is. It really is asinine, as my high school principal used to say. When things would be irritating at the high school, he'd say, "This is just asinine," and it really is.
Yes, it is. I think the word for now is ass backwards. Yeah.
Yes, yes, ass backwards, absolutely. So you work for a nonprofit for people with disability. And why don't you tell me, what are some of the things that you have been able to help people with disabilities achieve while working for that nonprofit? What are some of the things that you help there with?
Yeah, I've been working as a case manager, not really supposed to call myself a case manager, but a peer mentor. One of the unique things about my the disability organization I work at, it's not mine, the CEO, ED, but is that we are like a for us by us type of thing, a center for independent living. So people that come to us for help and support are people with disabilities, just like we are. 41, maybe 51 of our staff has to have some kind of disability, whether that is mental health, physical, cognitive, or visual impairment, what have you, deaf, hard of hearing, etc. So the things that I've overcome are the same things that people with disabilities come to the office that they also have challenges with, finding funding for their being or even advocating to be able to drive and see what options are out there. I do work mostly on benefits, benefits enrollment counseling. So I do a lot of SNAP, Social Security, SSI, and SSDI applications. I've also been on SSI, SSDI when I was in college years ago. So I also know I've actually had overpayment, which I tell everybody about so they don't fall into that trap of having an overpayment and having to pay thousands of dollars back. I'm kind of the poster child of that. I have no qualms whatsoever about telling people that I had an overpayment of $27,000 that was shameful and horrible and that I couldn't get out of. And that I eventually paid off, by just paying, whatever I could to get that off. But it's stressful. You feel a lot of shame around it, but it's just, it happens. Sometimes Social Security is not paying attention to earnings records, things you submit. And so you can be at fault, but you should not be having another job. I think I had a first job working at one of the colleges I went to. So, you have to be careful. Benefits are vital things that people need. But, my point is that a lot of people can, it's just that what's hard is the people that are in positions to deny the employment. That's what we have a problem with. It's not that people can't work. And some people can't. I'm not going to say that, there aren't severe enough disabilities where people can't work, but we also have to admit when people are in a position of power to deny the opportunity to show you that they can't. People that are hiring, recruiters, people in different HR departments, you know, I went to the workforce recruitment program out of college, and it was a great program. But the department, I guess, of labor or education was paying our salaries, so it's almost like the government got a free employee. And so, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. It was a wonderful program. It was great, but it also was an awareness campaign on the capabilities of a disabled workforce. And so, we need more of that. We need that to be the standard so that people can really see. And there are a lot of great programs out there, but like I said, I mostly work on benefits and on employment with people and getting people transition from like higher education or even high school to living in the community.
Wow. So that's interesting that you brought up the overpayment. How does one get an overpayment? How do they know, like, hey, this is
I didn't know it at the time. I felt like I wasn't even really making that much. And a lot of that money that I got from Social Security, I put back into school. So that money was gone. And that's what happens to a lot of people. They over and that's the thing. Social Security needs a complete over to permit people to work and still keep some of their disability benefits. They are not making enough money, usually at a part-time, job to sustain themselves. And so having the Social Security, they do it for veterans. Veterans can be 98% disabled and still have a whole other government job where they're making over $100,000. I know people that have that. It's just a different system if your disability is not related to combat or to service. And that's unfortunate. We should still be able to maintain, and Social Security needs to do a better job of, moving your earnings up or down based on your income from that month. But what happens is they don't receive those earning statements that you should be turning in every 2 weeks. And they don't adjust your income. So they're overpaying you if you are working. So you're earning above the limit of what you're allowed to. Right now, for a single individual, it's like just over $1,000 that you can still work and make and still get your benefits. But it should be way more than that because $1,000 is not enough to live. So
right.
we've been dealing with the Social Security system of the 1970s. When the cost of living is way higher than it ever has been, and we still have these old earnings rules and regulations in place. And so that's where the issue is.
They don't allow us to save anything over $2,000.
That too, that needs to change. Our funeral costs $10,000 or more.
Yeah, they don't allow us to save anything over $2,000. Don't allow us to have any assets. It's almost like, yeah, we'll help you, but you can't invest. And I say it all the
You
time.
can't have a good life, period.
You can't have a good quality of life. And I say, as an American, I feel like I've been robbed of the quote American dream because we're not allowed to have anything over $2,000. Then, if we have an ABLE account, which was supposed to help us keep the government out of our business, at least that's the way it was presented to me. So now the government comes and says, do you have an ABLE account? Well, what does that matter? Because to me, that wasn't a part of the deal. You're not supposed to be able to factor that in.
Right. And people need to stop acting like we're trying to, people are trying to get over. They're just trying to pay bills and live, life, what it costs. In the ABLE account, you can't even really save for equipment. You may be going to school when all is said and done. You ought to be able to use that money for things like assistive technology, other forms of education, like, um, other type of schooling besides your standard university, or even learning a new hobby or taking certificate programs. I mean, there's just so many stipulations on it that it's really isn't any real good, at the end of the day to have all that money and not be able to use it on things that you need.
Yeah, that's why I had an able account for a very brief time, because everybody was topping it up. And I didn't like it because there was no, I mean, you had to wait 2 or 3 days before you could get access to your money. Then you had to, put a certain amount in every month to be able to keep the account. And it just wasn't very, I don't know if it's changed now, but it wasn't very just technical friendly and just being able to use it.
I think there have been some changes to what you can do with it. I don't. I still think people have some of the same complaints about the restrictions. I never had an able account. I don't have one now, but um, it really wasn't even in existence when I was transitioning from school to, or even as a child. And you wonder, able accounts are just another way for consumer financial bureaus and financial advisors to talk you into another one of their products. I mean, that's the reality too. At the end of the day, you don't really know who's behind these things. It's just another way for you to put things away that, will somehow be confiscated by, who's ever left she tell the story. Whoever the last man standing will inherit it with the little dog. So that's what likely will happen to all of it.
Yeah.
I will say that a trust may be the best option for especially parents of people with disabilities that are coming to adulthood. Yeah, I think that is still going to be the best option for people to permit their children to get their benefits and still receive disability benefits and still put money, safeguard the house so they don't lose it or whatever, they're going to need and to have somebody to be able to care of that.
Yeah. Well, going back a little bit to the $2,000 cap. Last year, I heard that there was a big push to raise it up to $10,000, for the $10,000 cap and all that stuff. And then the bill died. So if anyone in Congress is listening to this, we really need this to change because putting us on a shoestring budget, especially when we have literally nothing we can do about it because in my case, I was deemed unemployable, which is not true, which is one of the reasons why I started this podcast.
Mhm.
We need to have that cushion and be able to say, hey, this is how I was able to prepare for my future. And I know what some people are out there thinking right now because I hear it in my comments. Oh, you want to have your cake and eat it too. You want to be on the system and get money without, also off of the system. No, I don't. I want
Right.
to be able to have, I want to be able just to have a little bit of a normal life.
Mhm.
If
Well,
I,
there are emergencies. Most people
yeah,
have an emergency of some sort, and $10,000 was still good. Probably in 1980, it should be even more than that now, but they will say $10,000 because that's progress. So it's just ridiculous to me how they restrict things, and it's unfortunate.
yeah, yeah. And it just, and then people going to disability offices all the time. And I don't know how I hear cases all the time of people being able to cheat the system.
There'll always be those people, though, but that is not the majority of them. Yes. There'll always be people that are cheating the system, but you can't punish an entire class of people based on people that are cheating. They need to, fraud regulation, investigations, but the majority of people with disabilities are not, just freeloading for something. The money that people receive is next to nothing.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I receive SSI and SSDI, and if I could go back, I would receive the SSDI because I didn't know that it was going to mess with my regular Social Security benefit and my food stamps. I mean, I get $63 a month in food stamps because of the raises, the 3.2% I think we got this year. And then because I withdraw money from my mom's retirement, that's what it boils down to. And it's just crazy.
And a lot of people's SNAP benefits get canceled as soon as they get Social Security. So it's ridiculous. You need, the money to be able to afford other things. And they should, be giving something, for the food costs, so $63, even at Aldi, it's not going to get you that much. I mean, goodness, it's just ridiculous how it
No,
works.
to be honest, this is what I tell people. This is what I tell people. It's cheaper to eat out at this point than it is to go to the store and try to find $63 worth of stuff and risk yourself going over because you don't have the money to pay if you go over. So, it's just like, uh, but anyway, this is why we need more people with disabilities in government that can really make a change, I think, in my, um,
Totally. I agree. I agree. And we're going to get there. I am optimistic. Despite all of our, what seems like a moan and groan podcast, despite of all of our limitations, what really needs to happen, and I think what will happen is, you know, we have an aging, workforce. They're going to be claiming, disability. More and more people are going to see what you can and cannot do. More young people who are already experiencing financial, hardship are going to be in a position of power to make new rules. And I try to find the silver lining, in everything is that, one group paves the way for the next one. And so I think that while right now and maybe the next 3.5 years, we are going to probably regress a little bit in much of our advocacy work, I think that we will eventually, be victorious and we'll be propelled forward. And the things that we need, we'll be old and, decrepit, you and I, Nick, but um, we should still have a healthy dose of optimism that younger and younger people are going to be in a position. They have different experiences. They have more people with disabilities in their classroom. They ride the bus. All of them, sometimes have neurodivergent issues, ADHD and other things. And so I try to be, optimistic about what kind of power they will get and what kind of laws and things they'll be able to enact when the time happens.
well, yeah, and you're right about something. This does sound like a moaning and groaning session, but really, to be honest with you, I mean, this is what my podcast is based around. It's about speaking out and speaking up about the things that really matter to the
Of
disabled.
course. Oh no, I love a good moaning room. Don't get me.
Yeah,
I know it. But I'm just saying.
yeah, yeah,
End on a high note.
yeah. No, but it really helps, for people to understand because I get comments on my social media all the time. You know, oh, you look like you can do social media. Why don't you go get a job? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not that simple. It is not that simple. Um, so you said your newest book is coming out in the spring. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what it's around?
Sure. My new book comes out in the spring. It's called Smoking Confessions. It is a romantic suspense. It's actually the fourth book in a series about the same family. So, the first book, which I'll give you a link to, is actually free. So if people want to just find out, about the family, the first book is called Anger Hearts, and it's the same band of brothers throughout all four book series. One goes to jail. It's about five brothers. One goes to jail. So he didn't get a book because he doesn't deserve it because he's a villain. He's actually a villain in two of the actual stories of the four. So I hope people look forward to getting Smoking Confessions and visiting with Anchored Hearts, the first in the series, and I'll provide you with a link to get that free book for all your listeners. Okay?
Yeah, yeah. And so you're gonna give us all of your information, and we're gonna put it in the show notes. Um, yeah, So I heard you talk about on the podcast that I heard you on about, um, getting parents to understand that, it's good for their kids to work and to want to work and to be on their own. And, all the fears that the parents have about what if they, lose their benefits? Well, as we've been talking, it's, almost, it's worse than a shoestring sometimes.
It is.
So, what would you say to parents who are, leery about having their kids with special needs graduate from high school and try to get work and all that?
I would say that, there's nothing more, rewarding than for them to realize whatever level of independence that is. If that is going somewhere for even just a few hours, staying under the median of 20 hours per week at a certain amount that keeps them from losing their benefits, that's totally doable. But what I don't want to see, and what a lot of parents don't realize is happening, is that, for me, my office, getting a lot of calls from 30 and 40-year-olds and, 70-year-old mothers who don't know what to do with their children because they are older, they're isolated, they're, playing video games all day,
Right.
social connection and outlets. And they're also losing some appropriate behavior conduct, sometimes by being at home and, doing whatever they're doing with themselves. But my point is that at least if you find out that it's not going to be an option, then at least have the data to support that. One of the things that when I do Social Security applications that happens a lot is people get denied and everybody gets denied. I want people to know that from the first point, unless you have some kind of, renal failure, end stage renal disease, you are going to get denied more often than not, because I see it all the time. So with that, of course, you do the appeal. You always appeal. I tell everybody that, and I help people appeal. But what they're saying when they automatically deny you is that you haven't tried to see if little Johnny or Susie can work. You're just assuming he can't because you want to get him the benefits. But at least let have the opportunity to try as best they can. You coach them, you support them, you get them a job coach, you shadow them, you write their instructions down. They put it in their pocket, and when they're down, they look at it and they keep trying to do the job. I don't care if it's at 5 jobs for 50, but you at least give them the opportunity to try. And where they can't try, you find them a volunteer opportunity so that they can have social connection. So they're not eating you out of house and home all day because they have nothing to do, and they're not running up your bills at home. They have something to do. They take the bus, the Metro Access, or whatever comes around, does the door-to-door paratransit service. You tell them what they're going to do. They go for 2 hours or 4 hours, 3 days a week. My point is not that everybody can work, everybody should, at the cost of hurting themselves or, suffering, but that we should be harder and being more creative about getting people employed, getting people to work. And if it doesn't work, the option B is not to stay home all day. The option B is to go work on the nearest farm where they can work with animals and horses. And so what they clean out, the stables, or they are doing something. It's you, usually the parent has negative connotation about what they're doing them. So long as it's legal, so long as they get to interact with people, and
Yeah.
it's just these beautiful animals or even dogs and cats or whatever, bro. Working with animals, they care. They don't have any checks they're making on you. They're just so happy someone is paying attention to them. So give
Right.
them the opportunity is my only point. Try as hard as you can in every sector that you can. And if it doesn't work, then okay.
Yeah. This is why I stress in a lot of my episodes that, you know, parents have no problem sitting down with their children without disabilities and saying, okay, what does your future look like?
Mhm.
What do you want to do? What do you want to do as soon as you flip that tassel to the other side and say, okay, I'm graduated? They have no problem sitting down with their children that are not disabled and doing that. But when it comes to their disabled children, like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Mhm.
Well, the same thing you would do with your non-disabled children. But
Right.
I mean,
It should be no different. You might be lenient on the level that it gets done, but you should not be lenient and just fall out about it getting done at all. The other thing that I'll say is that being with other people every day just teaches them to be good roommates. Teach them how to do the laundry, clean up, pick up after themselves. Now you doing it. Because the other thing is that it's gonna get like they have to go to a nursing home, and Johnny and Susie have to go live, with other people with disabilities. You will have taught them, and they can stay in that new home environment that they're going to be in with other people with disabilities, or they're going to find themselves at the mercy of the state. So it's not even always about work. Just teach them how to be good, respectable, get along with everybody, pick up and clean up after yourself, so that they can live with other people should something happen to you. Because more often than not, something's going to happen to you as a parent. I mean, some parents really are living in Delulu because they don't think they're ever going to die. And that's just not. I already have plans. I share a house with my mother, and my fallback plan is I'm in an accessible house. We have 4 bedrooms. I will have to give up my office, but I'm going to invite other people with disabilities, and they can pay. I'm going to be like, dorm mama number 1. I'll arrange activities. People are going to be going out. They're going to be going to a work program. That's the plan B in me to keep what I'm doing and to also open up an accessible place I have. Of course, I pray that it doesn't come to. And I have caregivers. I have 4 caregivers, you know, that come in and share, 7 days because I need care too. My mom is not taking care of me every single day. She's older, and it's just unrealistic that she would do that for the rest of my life until she's like 100. God provided that she lives that long, and I certainly hope that's the case. But the reality is, I've had caregivers since I was 17. I remember finding them, hiring them, training them myself. And I've had 2 parents in the household, but I wanted to be independent, and I did not. And more kids need to develop a healthy dose of independence. Like, your parent can't possibly take care of you forever. You don't need some young people to come and, lug your ass around. Yeah, I'm just keeping it real, so you can't expect, older parents, aging parents to do that. And so as hard as it is when a caregiver, leaves or, I try not to take that personally. I've had a lot of that. They leave. One's in nursing school. She's going to leave when she gets her time nursing placement. Like, this is the reality, but you learn to toughen up, and you learn to have disappointment. And some parents are just shielding their kids ridiculously from having any kind of heartache or disappointment, but that is life.
yeah, yeah, because what you're doing is when you end up passing away or becoming incapacitated where you can't take care of them, what you're doing is you're storing up that heartache that they're going to have
Mm-hmm.
because they don't know what to do with the fact that you're no longer able to take care of them because you didn't train them. You didn't say, okay, here's the next steps. And if you say, well, my son or daughter's in a vegetative state and they don't know what's going on, well, then that's when you need to have other people trained and ready to go for when that time comes that you can no longer do it.
That's right. And there's going to come a time when it happens. And I implore parents to get as much help as they can. Reach out to your long lost sister, you're estranged from, for whatever reason. Siblings do want to help. They don't want to do it all.
Your mic's on. Okay, I think we got it back. Hello? Your mic's gone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No.
It takes a village. That's my point. It
Yeah.
takes a village, and we need to be asking the village to come help.
Yeah. Yeah, and it really does, and follow your pride, parents.
Yes.
Understand that, you know what? You're gonna become disabled too, and probably at the end of the day, you're gonna need somebody to help you. So
Yep.
just get used to it now with having your son or daughter having to do this. And yeah,
Things Put things in place while you are well. That is the bottom line. While you are healthy, you're fried chicken, get this stuff together. I would have said something else, but get it together.
yes, yeah. No, you could have said something else. You're okay. Uh, but yeah, I totally agree with you. And we really hope that this episode is gonna be helpful to a lot of you who will listen. And Tracee's gonna, give us her website and everything else so you guys can reach out to her. She's an author and everything else. And she's gonna get that free book over to me so we can put it in the show notes so you guys can get that. What are some final things that you would like to leave the listeners of Nick Speaks and the viewers of Nick Speaks, just as final words of advice, Grace?
My final words of advice, just keep going. Never give up, appeal, appeal, appeal. Don't be afraid to push back on anyone and anything when it comes to things that you want out of this life. And continue to support my boy Nick here on his podcast. And it's been such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it has been such a pleasure interviewing you, and we will have more moaning and groaning sessions, most definitely.
Awesome. I don't have enough, so I want more. I'll come on and moan and groan, add my 2 cents.
Yes, I would love to. I would love to. So we'll be sending you guys. We'll be putting all this in the show notes. But I think your website is TraceeLydiaGarner.com.
It's just TraceeGarner.com, my first and last name. Yeah,
Tracee Garner. Okay, TraceeGarner.com.
that's right.
And her books and everything else. And guys, remember, if you want to be on the podcast, you can email me at nickspeaksofficial@gmail.com. You can also listen to this episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and my YouTube channel at Nicholas Comstock. We are just over 500 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So if you have not subscribed to that yet, please do so and make sure you hit the notification bell so that every time a new episode or a behind the scenes clip is released, you will get notified. Thank you guys for joining me on Nick Speaks, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. See you next time. Bye-bye.